Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you are new, welcome to my channel. On this channel, I talk about my journey with writing my very first novel, Guardians of the Skulls, but really I want this channel to be more than just about that. I want it to be my journey in life. Another part of this channel is my This Is 25 series, where I talk about my 25th year of life. I think it's a big milestone in life in general. You know, you're a quarter of the century year old and you're really starting to look at who you want to become as a person and ways to improve yourself, and maybe not, I don't know, it seems to be that part of our lives where everyone is veering off in different directions, whether it be career, family, hopes, dreams, or maybe you're struggling a little bit too, and that's perfectly fine. It's a lot going on during this time. I'm completely rambling. So I thought I would film today in front of my Christmas tree because I plan to take it down later today since it is now well past Christmas. And I thought it would just be nice to have this one last time because I love it so much. I wanted to talk today about something that I've actually been doing for 12 years now. It's a huge part of my life and my reflection upon the new year. I'm one of those people, I'll be honest, I love New Year's and New Year's resolutions. I think it's a great time to reflect on how you're doing so far. It's a great time to reevaluate your goals, and I don't know, I just love that sense of community, how everybody is looking at this time to improve themselves and improve the world around them. And I get really motivated and inspired by all of these people just trying to live a better life. Now, of course, I understand people's skepticism when it comes to New Year's resolutions, because we do have a tendency to, you know, let the newness wear off a little bit, but I just thought I would talk about another important part of New Year's, which isn't just looking forward into the future, but also reflecting on the past. So if you want to see my New Year's resolution video, which I filmed with one of my best friends, Erin, please feel free to check that out. But for this video, we're gonna take a look back. So I started doing this when I was 13 years old, so in 2005. I remember it clearly. I was in my room on New Year's Eve by myself. I think my mom had gone to bed, or I hadn't gone downstairs yet to hang out with my family for New Year's. And I was thinking about how I had all of these hopes for the future, and I had all of these thoughts. I'm somebody that, I love journaling, but I don't do it very often. I certainly don't do it every day. I kind of just do it when I'm inspired and have something to say. And I thought it'd be really cool to write myself a letter for the next year. Now, I've since heard that a lot of people do this, so I wasn't, you know, new by any means, but I did come up with it myself. And so I did. I wrote this letter. I'll show it, not too closely. But yeah, I wrote it December 31st, 2005. I hand wrote it. My handwriting has definitely improved. And I can tell that I wrote it when I was 13 just based on how I do certain letters, because I changed my letters over time. But yeah, and on it I talked about some things that had happened that year in 2005, and also just some hopes for the future, as well as made a list of really important events, such as my brother got his driving permit, which is so funny, he's almost 28 now. Hurricane Katrina happened. My dog Frisky at the time turned 6. Just like silly things like that, but it's just really cool to see what I felt was important and valuable enough when I was 13, and just the kind of person that I was. And so then what I did is I sealed it in an envelope, or actually, no, I didn't. I'm lying. I just kept it folded up and I put it in my cat who had already passed away, her old food dish, and I just kept it there for a year. And my biggest fear was that I was gonna forget about it, but I didn't. And so the next year I wrote this, and it's just a tradition I've continued to do, and it's something I look forward to every single year. I think it's one of the reasons I love New Year's still so much. It's been really cool to see the way I have changed over the years and how my priorities have changed, how I've grown as a person. In my earlier letters, I was definitely more, I don't want to say a pushover, because I guess I was a little bit more sensitive, and then I definitely went through a period in college where I was almost a little too desensitive, and now I'm getting back to that. It's just been so amazing to be able to look back into who I was at 13 years old every single year and reflect on, you know, what have I changed? What do I wish I could go back to? What do I, you know, what have I always valued? It's so funny, every single year, I'm almost embarrassed to admit this, but not really embarrassed, I mention The Sims in some way, and now it's almost become a running joke with myself that I always make sure to mention The Sims. Like my very first letter, half of the letter is me talking about my Sims 2 family, because back then, when I was 13, my computer was a huge part of my life, as maybe sad as that is to say, but you know, and I had a lot of online friends who I don't talk to as much anymore, but who were still connected, like on Facebook now, but this was even before Facebook, you know, this was 2005. And then it's interesting even to see the years that I did struggle a little bit more than others, and you know, now having had such an amazing year last year, as hard as some things were, but just, you know, figuring out who I am and what I want out of life. There are a couple years that are kind of hard to read back on, because I can tell when I was writing it how sad I was, I could tell how lost I was, and it's just a really great way to have a condensed version of my own personal progress. So the point of this video, I just wanted to share my experience with writing a letter to myself every year. I think it is so amazing and so valuable as a way to really refocus your thoughts, really condense how you felt that your last year went and your hopes for the future. You know, in my letters, I don't list my specific resolutions or anything like that. I more list like what I hope to become, like who I am as a person, what I hope to continue to improve upon. Like last year, I really wanted to become more focused in life, and you know, I wanted to finally sit down and say I wrote a book, and I'm so happy to say that I'm able to say that now. I've definitely learned how to focus myself and my goals better, and then, for example, I haven't written 2018's letter yet. I know it's after January. That's something I'm notorious for. I don't always write the letter anymore on December 31st, because oftentimes I have parties to go to, and I have a strict rule not to open the letter before December 31st. They're all addressed, as you can see. I have a stamp. I have a stamp that I addressed the letter for that year. And I've gone back and since resealed them all, and I have a little seal that I do. So I make sure I definitely don't open the letter before the New Year's Eve, and I try not to think about what I wrote, so that it's almost like a surprise, because it's exciting. I don't know. It's like a time capsule. I mean, that's literally what it is a time capsule of myself, of my thoughts. So I don't always write it exactly on December 31st, especially now that reading all the letters, because I sit down and I read them all through, starting with my 2005 letter, and it takes a long time. This year, it took me an hour and a half to read them all, because as the years have gone on, I've written longer and longer. Like, let me find last year's letter. So this is the letter addressed to December 31st, 2017, so that was a couple weeks ago. And I hand wrote it, and it is, I think, 6 pages, all front and back. So it took me a long time to read all of this, which is crazy. And I gotta say, I was pretty funny in this letter. You could tell I was in a better mood. I think the worst I've done is I did write one in April, and that was the year I was struggling. I could tell that, you know, the more delayed I am, the more I realize that I'm having a hard time, because when you sit down and write letters to yourself, and this is something if you've never done before, you're gonna be the most honest you've ever been in your life. And I mean, maybe not at first, maybe at first you start telling yourself lies, like, oh, everything's fine, and you know, I'm so happy, which, you know, is not to say it's not true, but I find the exercise of writing a letter to yourself that you know you are only going to read, it's so freeing. You know, you don't have to worry about hurting anyone's feelings. You don't have to worry about coming across put together. You can just be your most blunt and honest self. You can say all those things you've been so afraid to say, even to yourself. And so that's what's really great about these letters, is having that one time a year, if it is only one time a year, if you don't keep a journal, having that one time a year where you're just completely honest with how the last year has gone and how you hope the future to go. That's super rambly and vague, I know, but I just think it's so important to do that. That was actually a lesson I talk about in one of my letters too, was the value in being honest with yourself and being genuine with yourself. I found that to be the best tool in personal growth. You know, I think you feel like when you're going down a path that maybe isn't quite right for you. Like for me, you know, I don't regret going to grad school at all. I loved my program, I loved my classes, I loved my colleagues. But I went for journalism and I learned that that's not quite right for me, and I was learning that while I was still in grad school before I graduated. But I decided to finish out the program just because it was only a year, so, and I had already paid. But, you know, and so that was something I was afraid to say. I was afraid to say it to my friends, to my family, that I think that this isn't right for me and I've just spent a lot of money making this wrong choice. And that's terrifying to admit. That is so terrifying to admit, because what does that mean? But as soon as you say it, suddenly it doesn't matter anymore. You know, as soon as I admitted that to myself, you know, that I went to school for something that I didn't want to do, I just felt free. I was like, okay, it happened. It's a neutral fact that has taken place, so what am I gonna do about it? And I decided, you know what, I'm gonna finish out the program, because I realized this may be early spring of the program, and I finished at the end of spring. I was like, I'm gonna finish out the program and I'm just going to take a new approach to this. You know I don't wanna go specifically for journalism, but here I am and I'm taking a lot of writing classes and I know I want to be a writer. So how about I focus on that aspect of it and getting that out of it? And I can make a whole video about like what to do when you pick the wrong major, but that's really the value of being genuine with yourself and having these discussions with yourself, reflecting and just taking that time to really have a frank conversation with yourself in the mirror about how's life going, what do I want, and what do I wish I could change. Anyway, that's it for today's video. I'm sure I'm gonna make another video about this topic in the future that's maybe a little bit more organized and can give more tips. But just for now, I just wanted to share that part of my life because it's so valuable and it's something that I always get really emotional and just moved by when I read these letters. And it usually takes me, honestly, a couple, maybe even 3 hours to sit down and write the next year's letter, just because I really pour out all of my feelings about things. And I don't sometimes I sit down and I plan, I make a list of all the things I want to bring up, and sometimes I just vent because it just feels so good to just get those honest, true thoughts out there. And so just to give a little tidbit about things I'll probably talk about in this year's letter: writing my book, what I learned from that, getting engaged, hopes for the future for sure, fears for the future, and you know, I had such a great year last year. And it's not necessarily because of all the things that happened. It was just having that chance, that opportunity to really think about what kind of person I wanted to be and how to best utilize my personality and my skill set to get what I want out of life. Like, I am not an ambitious person in the sense that I love working and I'm a workaholic. And I had to use my own weaknesses as a way to progress in my own goals, and I'll talk about that more too. But just for example, you know, I'm somebody that if I'm not motivated to do something, it's really hard for me to push myself to do something. So I had to use that weakness about myself and, I don't want to say trick, but just figure out then what plans will work for me. You know, I love visual achievements, and so I've created now charts that I can fill in and check off when I accomplish something, and that's something that works for me. So I use my own weakness as an advantage to achieve my goals. That's a whole other video. I'm listing 1,000 different videos, but that's kind of what the letter thing is all about, because you bring up all these things, blah. I'm rambling. And oh, even just mentioning being engaged, I wanted to bring up, so in my letter, it's gotta be like 2011, I think it was, for like, so I wrote it 2011, and it was for 2012. I talk about like my friends and how valuable they are to me, and how I know that this group of my high school friends will be in my bridal party one day. And it was so fun reading that back now, because, you know, I was reading everything I wrote and I was like, oh my god, and that's come true. Like, now that I'm engaged and planning my wedding, like, these people are gonna be in my bridal party. And I pictured myself like on my wedding day reading that tidbit of my letter that I'll have. I'm gonna get all emotional. Man, I have not filmed one of these in such a long time. I can tell because I'm out of breath from talking so much. And so before I go, I just want to let you guys know plans for the future, videos for the future. As you know, if you watched my This Is 25 Life update, I got a new job, which is going so well. I just finished my first week. I love all of my coworkers so much. It's such a dream job. Like, I am just so excited to be there. But the commute is longer, so it's got a little bit longer hours in that sense. So that's an adjustment. However, I am so excited to get back into this. And one of my Christmas presents was my mom got me all of these different journals, so I have now a specific journal notebook thing for my YouTube ideas, and I've already got a lot planned. I'm so excited. One thing that I hope for 2018 is really focusing on my writing again and making that a top priority like I did in early 2017. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas, a wonderful New Year's, and a great start to 2018. I honestly consider all of January kind of the New Year's time. Like, I still feel that like rush of New Year's resolution for the rest of January. February is when you start to like get the nitty gritty, like, okay, the newness has worn off. So I don't know. I love January as a whole for the entire month. I always just feel so refreshed by it and so hopeful for the future. But for now, we must bid adieu this lovely Christmas tree. Goodbye, Christmas tree. And all its glory. I don't know exactly what day of the week I'll be posting videos quite yet, but by the time I upload this, I have a feeling I'll have a better idea. So look in the comments below for my new schedule. I will be sticking to it because that is also one of my goals of 2018, is to be way more consistent and not just do these bursts of like consistency and effort and then slack. Like, I want to just be consistent throughout the year. Please let me know if you also write letters to yourself, or if I have inspired you to write letters to yourself, or what you guys do for your New Year's resolutions and your way to reflect back on the year before. Do you guys just journal every day? That's something I would maybe like to do in the future. I don't know. Okay. Bye, guys.